We learned how to do this if we know how to do it. My son started at a tourist railroad when he was 12.
The idea was if I was over there with those old guys on the Railroad Museum, I wouldn't get in trouble.
And we've been from Michigan, Indiana, Alabama, Florida, North and South Carolina, Connecticut, Ohio.
15 states and 18 different railroad museums hauling this engine around the country, giving people rides.
Father and son team John and Barney Gramling bring their flagpole steam engine, Hank, to Thomaston every year to give visitors a special ride.
My father and I own Flag Coal Company number 75, a 040 tank engine that we bought and restored in 91 to 2001.
My son was 19 at the time, and 19-year-olds aren't the easiest to work with.
It's kind of a father-son hobby that's gotten way out of hand, is what it is. The engine was built in 1930. It weighs 82,000 pounds full of coal and water. It was built by the Vulcan Iron Works in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, which is just outside of Scranton. It took us 10 years to get it running. We now have 4 of them. At the rate we're going, Dad's 68, and that makes him about 88 by the time we get the last one done. So I think we probably better get them finished. We've had it running all across the country, different spots, giving people rides. And we are here in Thomaston, Connecticut. We are pulling trains for the Railroad Museum of New England. The engine will hold about 1,200 gallons of water in its tank. It carries about a ton of coal. A rule of thumb, 100 gallons of water per mile and roughly 100 pounds of coal per mile.
Mechanically, they're a relatively simple machine.
The special thing about the steam locomotive, it's a machine that depends on people. It has to be carefully managed. It takes hours to get it ready for the run, and it takes a lot of tending during its operation. It's the iron horse, as we all learned as kids, and it's a living, breathing machine.
Aboard our trains are real conductors and engineers in authentic period uniforms.
The rail line that we operate our scenic trains over is 18.5 miles long. We run along the river, we run through some state forests, there's a lot of wildlife.
This trip we're doing here, we're going down 3.5 miles and back. We'll go through about 600 gallons of water and probably about 500-600 pounds of coal.
Over the years, the industry has faded away, it's moved to other places, and we're here to preserve that industrial heritage.
Tickets, please. Passengers can walk right up to the front of the train and watch the crew operate the locomotive.
The engine crew runs it, the engineer, the fireman who shovels the coal and makes sure there's enough water in the locomotive.
If you have 2 guys that can work together and are smooth and easygoing, you will not burn as much coal and water. It's all about doing everything nice and steady.
On the ride, you hear the engine breathing as it travels along the wild and scenic Naugatuck River.
If the wheels are 40 inches in diameter, in theory the thing should go 40 miles an hour pretty easily. This tank engine's got 38-inch wheels. If it gets over about 15-20 miles an hour, it gets to be a pretty wild ride. It has roughly 1/5 of the tractive effort of what a modern locomotive has, so it would take at least 4 or 5 of these to equal a diesel. You know, we're pulling 3 heavyweight cars here, and it's not having any trouble whatsoever. It isn't very big, but it has an awful lot of power, and it has a lot of speed and acceleration. And something that big that weighs 40 tons, it will get right up and go if you want it to.
It's an alive machine. It makes sounds, it breathes, it's got that wonderful steam whistle that echoes through the hills.
The Railroad Museum works hard to return the locomotives and cars to their original condition that they were in at the height of the American Railroad era.
This area wouldn't have developed if it wasn't for the railroad coming here.
The original Naugatuck Railroad was chartered in Connecticut in 1845. Construction began 3 years later in 1848 and was completed by May 1849, with the first regular train operating on June 11th. Today, our restoration shop is a beehive of activity. Roof and interior wood repairs to 80-year-old coaches, cabooses, and freight cars are ongoing, along with federally mandated inspections, repairs, and upgrades.
The engine is governed and regulated by the federal government. The engine is fully compliant with the FRA. If Amtrak would let us, we could put it out there in front of an Amtrak train, but I don't think Amtrak would want us on a northeast corridor with a 20-mile-an-hour engine.
Outside the workshop, this 1920s passenger car waits its turn for restoration.
This car is the Breslin Tower, originally built by the Pullman Company. This car came out of service in the middle part of the last century and is yet unrestored, but you can see how well built this equipment was back then that is still, believe it or not, in incredible condition. All of the fixtures in here are original. You can see that the sleeping berths that are above and below, even the original blankets from the Pullman Company. This car would be a beautiful museum piece, and we do intend to restore it such that we can display it to the public and show the history of how passenger train travel was in America through much of the last century.
By 1958, passenger train service was discontinued. During this period of decline, the rail line lost customers and fell into disrepair. The very future of the old Naugatuck line was in doubt. The Railroad Museum of New England's Naugatuck Railroad took over in 1995 and began operating its first trains in 1996. With this, the historic rail line's future was preserved, and in fact, guaranteed.
Come south to feel the switch and then stop.
The railroad and the station have been used in a number of movie shoots, TV commercials, a lot of photography shoots. The station behind me was used in Revolutionary Road, where Leo DiCaprio had to get onto a commuter train in August 1955 up in Connecticut and go to Grand Central. There were 150 costumed extras on the platform. It looked like a time machine, and you were right back in 1955 that day.
From here, the engine will be leaving Thomaston and will be going to Titusville, Pennsylvania.
I think we've been in 15 states so far.
We've had quite a bit of fun taking the engine to different places. I work for the railroad for a living during the week, and on the weekends I go play train with my engines.
And generations for years to come will understand, appreciate, and experience firsthand the engine that helped create America, the railroad.